Krug Show after Giants baseball. Giants winners in DC tonight. We gotta go with the music off the start, right?
Yeah, I was like, there's missing something.
I know. I mean, you can sit there and go no music, but you gotta go music, especially after a big win. Let's see.
You want me to try my intro out, the built-in intro to my sound? Oh, you got it.
There we go.
There we go.
Much better. All right, 7-1 G-Men in DC tonight. Road trip continues, and it continues in a positive way for the Giants. We'll give the band a minute to catch their breath. Welcome to the Krueg Show after Giants baseball. I am Larry Krueger. He is Ryan Smith. All right, Ryan. Good game for the Giants. And, not only did they get the win, Sammy Long drew the start. He was the opener, the quote-unquote opener. Well, what do you think of the concept of the opener? It was 2 innings that Long went tonight to start the game. Do you like that concept?
I'm still kind of getting used to it, but as the Giants, start to deploy that, when they're using it and they're winning games, I'm slow. Yeah, I'm quickly becoming a fan.
31 pitches for Sammy Long, 21 strikes, and he threw 2 shutouts. So the Giants got off to a nice, good start on the mound. Jacob Junis came in relief. Junis was just recently promoted. 5 innings, 3 hits, shutout ball for Junis. Didn't walk anybody, struck out 4. We got another look at Junior Marte, who did give up 1 run in his inning. And then Harleen Garcia pitched the ninth for the Giants. So finished up for the Giants, but it was all Giants offense, and it was all in the second inning as they just took the game from the Nationals. The big blow, I guess, maybe off the bat of Slater, but what'd you think? I mean, Giants that inning, they just grinded through some great at bats, and they put up all 7 runs. All 7 runs they scored in that inning.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's another example of Giants baseball, man. I mean, it seems like they had just bounced back. The bats were sleepy that last game in New York, and it was, the heart of the order, top of the lineup, heart of the order. They pretty much went 0-for and drew no walks. And then today, it's like Slater 2 hits and a home run. Wilmer Flores got, he had an RBI, he had a run, but he had a hit and he had a walk. Belt didn't have any hits, but he had 2 walks. Ruff 2 for 5. Estrada 2 for 4. Crawford 3 for 5. So yeah, it's just great to see the bats bounce back like this, man. And the pen was great again.
The downer for the day is Steven Duggar. Duggar with the oblique went on the 60-day DL or 60-day injured list, and he's going to be out for a while. I mean, he's going to be out a couple months, it sounds like. That's the thing with baseball and those oblique injuries. Man, one yanked oblique, one bad, and for some sports, it maybe doesn't matter as much. When you're in a sport like baseball where you're swinging the bat, the oblique is a crushing injury, one that is going to affect you on every single swing that you take. So that was a huge loss for the Giants because today they lose their best defensive center fielder for 2 months. And they play in a huge ballpark. So that to me was a bummer. Losing, Duggar. Duggar he means so much to them defensively, and to not have him now for at least 60 days, that is a painful shot for the Giants. But it was good to see Slater get it rolling. He's going to have to play a whole lot more. So all the more reason. But Slater, hitting 167, 2 for 5 today, though, with the 3 RBIs. And his first home run of the year, a 3-run shot off Corbin in that second inning. So, Giants just kind of blew it open. And if you look at the game, 2 hits for Ruff, as you said, he's still hit 176, but at least he got 2 hits, 3 hits for Crawford, 2 hits for Estrada, and 2 more hits for Yaz. And then Slater, 2 hits at the top of the lineup. So Belt has been carrying them. Belt goes 0 for 3 tonight with a couple walks, and they picked him up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just I'm happy to see Crawford have a nice day. And I mean that, bases loaded, double, could have been caught. Definitely could have been caught, but it's nice to see, he catches a break and then gets a couple more hits. Hopefully, I mean, because he's another guy, like you were saying, with Belt. I mean, especially of late, this late career Crawford with the power, he too can kind of put the team on his back offensively and go on these runs. So, yeah, it's great to see the big bats hitting again.
Luis Gonzalez was activated for this one. He went 0 for 1 with a strikeout. Joey Bart went 0 for 3. He did have one really good at bat where he drew a walk, but Joey Bart's hitting 188 with a 316 on base. Oof. Are you concerned, or is it just early? And you know what? Don't be concerned.
I think it's just early. I will say though, I was feeling pretty good about my Bart Rookie of the Year bet, but not as much now, and not as much with that dude on the Cubbies just raking.
Yeah, Seiya Suzuki. Suzuki looking good. It's interesting how Farhan continues to make these under the radar additions, and they come through. And it seems like it doesn't take long for them to come through. Eunice was just recently acquired. 5 shutout for him, giving up only 3 hits and striking out 4 along the way. And his stuff looked pretty good. Yeah. I mean, he had good command, but I mean, this is a guy who's a major league starting pitcher. And, the Giants basically started Long and then went to Eunice. Eunice, Long, and Marte. If I had told you that they were going to win a game over the Nationals a month ago, if I told you a month ago, they're going to win a game in a month, and it'll be Sammy Long going to Jacob Junis to Junior Marte to Harleen Garcia, and they're going to allow 1 run to the Nationals. You'd be like, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I mean, look, our starting pitching hasn't gone more than 5 innings, I don't think, since Webb went deep. And so, I mean, he gave us 5 innings. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at this. We're getting stupid, dumbass child says, "God bless you, Larry. I salute you." Well, thank you. Just out of he's loving the post-game shows, and, just out of nowhere, I'm getting blessed. God bless me. Oh, man, that's,
Yeah, he also said...
what else did he say?
He said Ryan Smith happy today. I saw that out of the corner of my eye. I was monitoring the other night, and somebody was saying I looked sad, and I was like, I get, man.
Were you sad the other day, and now you're happy?
I'm going to use
maybe it was a loss. The Giants were struggling in a loss, or was it after the Warrior game that you were sad?
I think it was the Warriors game actually, and I'm going to use the same Cyrus excuse. It was late for me.
Yeah, Cyrus's eyelids were at half mask. I believe it had something to do with, he said it was late. We'll just leave it at that. It is interesting though, watching, Farhan make these moves, and, these are relative no names, but we've now been kind of schooled in the, Farhan way of doing things, that incremental improvement is improvement at the end of the day. And they're hand-picking each one of these guys because they see something of value. The one thing that, the Giants kind of do right now is they see players they feel like their staff can work with and improve. And that's what I heard about Abbott, the pitcher they just got yesterday from the Cubs, that, they feel like there's some tinkering that can make him a little bit more effective. And we've seen them do that. And, that also, it's interesting. It's like free agents want to play for you typically if you can make them better. And these guys that are on the margins, the fact that the Giants staff led by Gabe Kapler has been able to make these guys kind of bring out the best in them has really, I think, is advantage Giants. I think it's one of the real kind of underrated parts of their turnaround over the last year is that they don't just get somebody. They get somebody, they figure out how they can tinker with their game to make them more effective at the major league level. And then sure enough, they do it. Now, sometimes they've had to send those guys back to AAA, right? and getting some rehab down there, or not rehab, but kind of finding your rhythm, let's say, in the minor leagues. But I'll tell you one thing that was absolutely, it was uncanny last year. Almost every time the Giants called somebody out of the minor leagues and gave them an opportunity, that person stepped up and did the job. They won 107 games, and they did it by, and we were talking to Saris about this late in the year. And he said, I said, what's been the key to the Giants turnaround? They've won 107 games. They've won more games this year than they've won in 138 previous seasons of Giants baseball. Explain it to me. Give me a theory. Tell me why we're watching what we're watching. And he did not pause. He didn't hesitate. He said, Krug, the number one reason the Giants are where they're at this year. And it's like, as he's saying that, I'm like, bring my ear closer. I'm like, I got to hear this. This is going to be magic. And he's like, Gabe Kapler and his staff give fewer innings to bad pitchers, and Gabe Kapler and his staff give fewer at-bats to struggling hitters than any team in the big leagues.
Hey, man, that is wow.
That's quite the revelation.
Just that. Yeah.
If you think about it, that's exactly what we're watching. If they have a pitcher that's struggling, they don't just keep running him out there. They get him out of the rotation. They get him out of the bullpen. They get him out. They somehow come up with a reason to IL him, or put him on some kind of list and slow down his pace and try to see if you can tinker with him or correct him, or put him you put him on an injured list for a couple of weeks and send him down for a rehab stint and see if your minor league people can turn him around if he's got an option. But they don't give away a bunch of ABs to hitters that are struggling, and they don't give a bunch of innings to pitchers that are ineffective. And that's kind of the bottom line. They've got really, really high standards. And what it also means is they've got good 40-man roster depth. And it also shows that at the minor league level, they're getting their young players ready to contribute at the major league level. So
not dissimilar to our conversation about the Warriors last night.
Yeah, exactly. This one's kind of interesting. He says, sign Michael Conforto right now. We lost Steven Duggar. Is Conforto a good replacement for Duggar? He's got a major league reputation. I don't know. I don't know what direction they'll go. I would have no problem seeing, what the Giants. Let's take a look at Luis Gonzalez for 10 days. And then maybe after that, maybe Elliot Ramos for 10 days. But I think they'd be open to a number of things. I mean, the one thing with Duggar is almost anybody that you are looking to call up better be a good defensive player in center field.
Yeah.
He's your best defensive center fielder.
Okay. Cause that's the other thing is just defense, man. They are such a good defensive team, and they have been.
Carol Tieso says Conforto is injured. No, we realized that, but I think the texter realized that as well. He's talking about when he gets healthy. But yeah, I mean, even so, Conforto turned down $18 million from the Mets early in the offseason. Talk about a guy who's probably regretting that decision. My goodness.
Yeesh.
That's not good.
Hey, Larry, I'm going to share a video, and I want you to give me your the first thing that pops into your mind. All right.
Is it going to be like Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson? No. What kind of video are you sharing?
Rocket from deep center field.
The ball got over Yaz, and the carom.
Looks like Soto's really chopping it up with Crawford and the boys. I saw that being shared on social media, people putting.
Does that mean that Juan Soto will be a Giant?
Hey, man, I got to say, all right, Nationals, you gave away Trey Turner and Scherzer to the Dodgers last year. Hey, why don't you come? Why don't you
give us Juan Soto?
Yeah, come on.
We got this one. Juan Soto, San Francisco Giants outfielder, 2026. I'll say this. If you could sign anybody in baseball right now, anybody in baseball to play on your team, who would you want? Giants could add one player outside of their own roster and put them on the team. Who do you want? You can have any individual entity in the game.
Honestly,
tough one, isn't it?
Soto, it's I think Soto is up there. It's going to be hard to turn down Ohtani, though.
I was thinking Vladdy Jr. at third base, maybe playing, wouldn't mind that. Vladdy Jr. playing the hot corner at Oracle Park.
Oh my God. Okay. Yep. No,
that's a good one.
In terms of juice, Vladdy for sure. Guy's just awesome.
I hate to say it because he's a Dodger, but Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
Mookie Betts is as good as it gets in some ways.
God.
You could have any player in the game.
Well, I mean, if this hypothetical world we're living in, does that also mean, we get to take Mookie Betts away from the Dodgers? Then I'm in.
No, you have to clone him. And in this situation, he has to be cloned. There has to be multiple Mookie Bettses. Right. Stupid, dumbass child says, give them our top prospects like Hunter Bishop. For Juan Soto, yeah. Yeah, we're going to take Juan Soto off your hands. Great. What are you offering? Can I interest you in a Hunter Bishop?
Is that two guys or is that?
No, I want more. Rizzo's like, are you kidding me? Hunter Bishop and what army? Well, you never know. I will say this. I do think the Giants and Nationals might be trade partners this summer because I think Josh Bell might be a good offensive presence. Giants are going to need some offensive presence. Thing with Bell, he's at first base DH. On this team, he would DH with Bell playing first, but he's a switch hitter, and that's, the one thing about the Giants, are always looking for the advantageous AB and, trying to get the great matchup. Well, you know what? You got Josh Bell, you got a switch hitting, power hitting entity. That would be intriguing. And, that means that you got him coming off your bench late in the ball game and they want to play lefty righty games. Go for it.
Yeah.
You got a switch hitter with power who you can put up in a big situation. I just think the Nationals for sure are moving him.
Yeah.
And he would be a nice middle of the season pickup for sure.
I mean, yeah. And what do you think the Washington fans, how do you think they'd react? Cause I feel like
is there such a thing?
Well, I think Washington sports fans in general have such low sports self-esteem that they almost would be like, sure, it takes, you know what? Like I want him to go win a ring somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Something tells me they're not going to be quite as gracious as we're hoping they're going to be.
I know.
It's like, here we go. We got this one from Robert. He says, the Giants can't be concerned with future trades. They have a roster that can be productive. Okay.
It's a little too reasonable there, Robert.
Seriously. Robert, God, what are you doing? What are you doing in this post-game show? That's a little bit too much sound reasoning. You don't belong. We've got another one here. Stupid dumbass child, which is a great handle. He says, LOL, Jose Ramirez off the table. Then if Josh Bell is in the Giants uniform, 2 switch hitters. Nice. Jose Ramirez would have been nice. That was kind of a weird thing. It was like Cleveland was going to sign him and then they weren't. And then all the reports were that things weren't going well. Then now he's signed an extension and says he wants to go to the Hall of Fame wearing a Guardians uniform.
I mean, how could you not with that storied history,
He wanted to stay. He wanted to stay in Cleveland. So, I would say early on, though, the theme for the Giants has just been they are getting consistent pitching, throughout. And that's really been the deal. Some days they hit and they win big. And other days they don't hit and it's either close, low scoring game. I do think they will fatten up on the Nationals.
Yeah.
It's like people are like, well, what's wrong with the Giants? What do you mean, what's wrong with the Giants? They went to New York. The Mets are one of the best teams in the National League. And they got Scherzered in the second game. They got a bad call in the first game of the doubleheader. That game easily could have gone a different way. And then it's a split. Instead, they lose 3 out of 4 to the Mets. And the Mets are a good team. But to me, the Giants are one of the National League's better teams, one of the Major League's better teams. And now it's that beat down of the rest of the league will continue. I mean, there are very few. It's really amazing when you look at the National League. Who's really good? You got the Giants, you got the Dodgers, you got maybe the Mets, maybe the Braves. And if you catch the Brewers, I guess, in the right situation, they can
What do you think of
pitch
the
you.
Cardinals?
I Cardinals, Padres, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cardinals are an awesome organization, but I wouldn't say the Cardinals are any world beater by any stretch.
Yeah.
So I think the best teams in the league are probably the Giants, the Dodgers, the Mets, and the Braves. So they they struggled against the Mets. Now here they are in DC. Watch them wipe up the Nationals this weekend. They win tonight, and we'll see what the rest of the weekend looks like. But and we will, by the way, be with you after game 2 tomorrow. Tomorrow's, I believe, is it a morning start, 10 o'clock start, something like that?
10:35.
Ned Coletti, I believe, is going to join us tomorrow night in the post game.
Sorry, 10:05. Got that wrong.
10:05. So Ned, we believe, is going to join us in the post game tomorrow, and we'll get his thoughts. We hope to get. Did we invite the great Evan Webeck tonight?
We did.
Any word on Mr. Webeck?
Maybe you send him a text. I don't know if I have enough juice. I don't know if I have enough juice. Oh, I sent him a. He said he'll be free in 10 to 15 minutes. I hit him with the old Twitter DM.
There you go.
Yep.
So he's what is that guy doing? You think he's got his own job? He wants to do his own job first.
I have post game responsibilities I have to handle.
Post game responsibilities. What's that about? No, but I think overall, if you're a Giants fan, oh man, you have to feel really good about where they're at right now, because they're a team that almost consistently pitches, and then they're despite the fact that many of their hitters don't have great numbers right now, they're finding a way to score enough runs to win games.
Yeah,
it's not it's have they looked overwhelming offensively? No, they really haven't. But on the mound, they've been so consistently good that you feel like they got a chance to win every game. As simple as that.
Yeah.
There's almost no time that I feel like they got no shot here. Rebel 444 says Ramon Laureano, Cedric Mullins, Reynolds, Montas, India are targets because they are on terrible teams. Well, Reynolds is no longer a target. That's Brian Reynolds of the Pirates. They just signed him to an extension. I don't believe now that he's signed to an extension that they would move him. Frankie Montas absolutely is available. Jonathan India, if the Reds are trading Jonathan India, that's bad for baseball.
Reds are an abomination right now. By the way, have you been seeing how weird Joey Votto's been getting?
No, as far as what, his batting stance?
No, so he's like just starting to post just bizarre videos to Twitter. I'll pull one together when we get Evan on.
Stupid dumbass child says, Larry, do you have Gabe Kapler's post-game audio?
If it's something in particular, I could play it. But I mean, did he say something interesting? I don't know.
I don't know. We'll look that up though. He says, I like nighttime because no saw or leaf blower going on. That's beautiful at nighttime, right? That's right. My neighbor is quieted down tonight. He's no sander, no leaf blower, no noise. That right there already makes it nice. Yeah, when we do the afternoon shows, he's such the handyman around the neighborhood that we have to listen to my neighbor with his blower. Did I tell you the story? So I'm like, we're feuding, right? I told you how my neighbor and I were feuding. We've been feuding for about 25 years. So I was like frustrated because he was sanding. I mean, seriously, in December, right? He was just sanding constantly, right? Just this guy was sanding literally around the clock. And so I was about to say something to him, and I looked over, and it looked like he's like making like a baby's bassinet. How do you get mad at a guy making a baby bassinet, right?
Seriously,
you know what I mean? It's wow, what are you doing over there? Oh, I'm sanding my granddaughter's bassinet.
Oh God, making in an urn
All
from
right.
my grandmother's ashes.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Uh,
Have a good day. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Here, I'm gonna real quick. I'm gonna get this Joey Votto video pulled up. If you have any more thoughts to share, real quick.
Yeah, no, I've got a number of thoughts. It's funny you think I don't have thoughts to share. I have nothing but thoughts. No, I was just going to say that, the Duggar injury is kind of a major problem for the Giants. That's kind of my one thing today. I was like, what? He's on the 60-day DL, and that's what I want to ask Evan Webeck about is where do they go? I mean, like Luis Gonzalez is not a bad hitter, decent balance at the plate, pretty good line drive stroke. I think offensively, he may even be a little bit of an upgrade on what Steven Duggar potentially can give you. But defense wise, the one thing about Duggar is he locked down center field, and I just think that the Giants the Giants are going to miss Steven Duggar's defense and center. Now, who could play out there? Well, Yaz could, but Yaz is not Duggar. Slater could. Slater has pretty good wheels. The one thing about Slater is sometimes I feel like he doesn't necessarily take control in center field. Like he's played so much in the corners that he doesn't take the control of a center, like a typical center fielder. Dubon, maybe? What do you think of Mauricio Dubon in center?
I mean, maybe. I think you're onto something, though. I think that Duggar's absence is right now maybe doesn't feel like that much, but I think that we're gonna see as games go on. I think we're gonna see. Oh man, Duggar would have been there for that. Duggar. Okay, so Larry, I've got this queued up. Are you ready for just Joey Votto being kind of a weirdo? All right,
let's do it.
Here we go.
Wow. 100,000 followers. Wow. Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Oh, I can't believe how... I'm just so... I'm so... Need more Bart!
Is that about as weird as
what the hell was that? What was that?
I don't even know.
Joey Votto's got a lot of free time on his hands. My goodness. He painted himself green.
He's thanking them for having, or thanking everyone for following him and reaching a milestone. But then he turned into the Hulk because he's angry that he actually wants more followers. I guess he's a
character.
He's a character. Yeah,
he's from Canada, I believe. Right? Isn't he Canadian? Pretty sure.
I mean, that does seem like kind of a Canadian move.
To dress up like the Incredible Hulk. You probably don't remember the Incredible Hulk TV show.
No, I've heard.
Oh my god, with Bill Bixby. Oh, it was phenomenal. It was one of these shows that like you didn't know it at the time, but now looking back at it, right, it was so slow.
Yeah.
It was like one of those shows like in the 70s when you were watching it, in the 80s, you didn't think like, oh man, this is slow. It seemed like, it seemed fine, but it's so slow. And I think they must have filmed it in like someplace like Bishop or someplace like north of the Grapevine where there's like nothing but empty space. And Bill Bixby would just be like walking around. Lots of outdoor scenes, and he's just kind of walking around. And all of a sudden he would get mad and he'd turn into the Incredible Hulk. And I liked it. It was a Friday night show back in the day, but seriously, go check it out. Anybody who remembers that show, go check that show out again and look how long some of the walking scenes are. I mean, literally Bill Bixby just like walking around for like minutes at a time. I mean,
oh god. I mean, you're going to hate me for this, but I mean, for my generation, I'm 26. Man, even sometimes watching The Godfather for me, it's like, wow, this is a long movie. They're taking their time here. Same thing with like I just saw. Oh man, what?
Godfather 1, incredible movie.
Yeah.
One of the greatest movies ever created. Godfather 2, I thought was also excellent.
Threes.
After that, I don't know.
Right.
I don't, you know.
Uh,
But
oh,
Godfather
man.
1, I mean, the original Godfather is one of the great moments in American movie cinema history, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's awesome. That's one of the most incredible movies of all time.
I just watched The French Connection for the first time the other day. That also, I mean, I enjoyed it just because I love Hackman, but that's another very slow. Even
okay, so
times.
You know, it's the weekend. You know, you're laying around. There's nothing to watch. You know, there's no sporting event you want to watch. What are you streaming right now? What's big for you?
You know, I love to just watch movies.
Give me an all-time favorite. Give me a movie that you've seen a ton of times that you've seen it a ton of times, but when you see that it's on, you watch it again.
There's so many. I mean, you know,
what's on your list? Because I'll give you my list.
Okay, I'll give you like 5. Like Gladiator,
the Office Space is one for me. Office Space, I'm all of that. Gladiator, that opening scene from Gladiator.
That's a little
where they rolled the guy's head out right before, and the dog's running up and down the trench as they're lighting their fireballs or whatever to shoot in. I mean, that scene, that opening scene of Gladiator is one of the greatest scenes in the history of movies, right?
Phenomenal. And then there's just like, you know, you're like, oh, what's your favorite scene from Gladiator? And it's like, oh, I can't tell if it's the first awesome gladiator fight or the second awesome gladiator fight or the third gladiator fight. There's so many great scenes. But yeah, anything with Tarantino, you know, it's a really a movie that I've weirdly watched a few times this year because it's been on is oh man, what's the movie that Tony Scott directed of his? Huge cast. Christian Slater was the star, but you know, Brad Pitt was in it. Young Gandolfini. Oh man, what is that?
What was the name of the movie? What was the? Look it up. I'll tell you, every Easter weekend, I always watch The Passion and James Caviezel, and I mean that was tough. That was tough to watch. It's a tough one. That's a phenomenal movie, and Caviezel was incredible in that movie.
True Romance is the name of the movie.
True Romance.
Yeah, we'll get back to Giants. So,
you know, somebody in the stupid dumbass child says "Night at the Roxbury" is mine. That is pretty funny.
That is good. Yeah.
We got one Bull Durham. One vote for Bull Durham.
Ooh, Bull Durham over Major League for me.
I like 8. I'm an 8-man out. Show me.
I love 8-man out.
If Sandlot, 8-man out.
Natural too. I mean, just for the ending scene is always great.
The Natural with Redford.
Yeah. The home run at the end.
He said he's going to be the greatest baseball player ever, and that creepy woman like, no, you're not. I'm going to shoot you. What do you mean? You want to be the best ever? The Babe's the best ever. That one. There we go. We welcome in Evan Webeck. We bring real content to this show. Evan, we were just talking about The Natural, so it's a tough transition. How are you from DC? Appreciate you stopping by.
Doing well. So nice of you to talk about me, The Natural, before I come on.
Hey.
Dude, look at that pompadour you got going, man. That thing is just
don't even.
That's some serious. Now,
it's a curse, not a blessing.
Do you go? Is it gel? Is it mousse? I mean, what gets it? I mean, that's just.
It's been a long process of trying to wrangle my hair over the course of my life.
Well, we haven't talked to you for a few weeks, but tell us a little bit about what it's been like. This is year 1 for you, being the beat writer for the Giants for the San Jose Mercury News, and how's it going so far?
That's a big question, man. It's going well. You know, it's the dream, but it's also a grind, as anybody will tell you. I feel like when you're in a job like this, you don't really have a lot of leeway to complain because just about everybody in the world wishes they were doing this.
Right.
So fully aware of that. But to let folks in on the inside baseball a little bit, I think I've gotten less than 4 hours of sleep the past 3 or 4 nights here. So it's going, but it's fun. I'm loving it. It's a lot of fun, and it's a fun team to cover, man. This is an exciting team. They're pushing some boundaries, as we saw tonight and previously, in terms of, you know, the unwritten rules of baseball. They're bringing in guys just like they were last year, who are just having these random breakout performances. I mean, you saw what Jacob Junis did tonight. Sam Long looked good, added some velocity to his fastball. Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun, and I think I'm hitting the ground, getting comfier by the day.
Good. Where are you joining us from tonight? What's that background? Are you still at the park, or are you back at your humble abode wherever you're staying?
Found a quiet little auxiliary press box here off to the side. I was about to make the walk back to my hotel, and then I saw this empty room I could jump into, and I figured I wouldn't keep you waiting any longer.
Oh, nice. Well, we appreciate that. And we you know, and we don't want to take too much of your night, but let's talk a little bit about your, you know, this first month. One of the things that I saw you on the standing out front on that press conference, one of the most awkward press conferences I think I've ever seen, the Mike Schilt, Antone Richardson presser. And I don't want to rehash the whole thing and bury Schilt again, but I just felt like his answer of what he had to say there was not very substantive, and he wasn't very convincing or apologetic. I think he was asked a pretty direct question: why would you call somebody an MFer? And I think he just kind of never really answered it. He gave us a word salad of nothingness and just kind of put it out there. And Richardson was gracious enough to kind of let the whole thing die, but I didn't really feel satisfied that Schilt addressed it, you know, fully, completely, or that he really understood why why that wasn't cool, or was in any way remorseful. It was very bizarre. What were your takeaways from that whole back and forth between Richardson and Schilt the other day when the Giants and Padres played?
Yeah, I mean, the fact is that he didn't seem to understand the reason why they were there. He seemed to be apologizing when he actually did apologize, which came a few minutes into the press conference, but for using MFer, not the fact, like, that wasn't the problem there. People say MFer.
It was the control portion that
right.
made it seem that was very, very much borderline. Some people felt like had racial overtones, and he never really addressed that in any way.
No, and the whole thing was, I mean, on both sides seemed very orchestrated. They were kind of trading off their little portions, saying, oh, and now Antoine has something to say. Now Mike has something to say. Now Antoine has something to say. And really, Mike didn't have much to say. And Antoine, it was purely orchestrated for Antoine to kind of clear Schilt's name after the comments that Antoine made the night before. And I mean, I think ultimately, like, the whole situation could have been avoided if we had just kind of waited and had the two sides talk to each other and understand that there's some differences there, the miscommunication, misunderstandings. But ultimately, like, when you're using that language, it says something about what your perspective is when you're even using that in the first place. So I mean, I think Antoine was fully justified and fully rightful to come out and say what he said after the game, in the whole context of everything. Is it the best way to handle it? I don't know. Like, I don't think it's necessarily anybody wants to have these fights in the public eye, in the media, whether it's Antoine or Schilt. But I don't think there's any regrets from Antoine or from anyone in the Giants about bringing these issues to light. This is obviously something that is pervasive throughout the game still, which is a very much an old boys club. I mean, you see the decline of Black participation in baseball, and attitudes like the stuff that Schilt exemplified are reasons why, in addition to, you know, a slew of other access issues in terms of, you know, baseball in the inner cities and other communities that obviously Black people live in.
Ron Wotus wasn't buying it. He was like, "Hey, it was weak." He thought the apology was weak, and
Lamont Wade too has said the same thing.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
hear what I didn't see what Wade had said. What did Wade say exactly? Do you remember what he said about this? Because he was there. He went out on the field. Him and Gabe
Mhm.
Kapler were both there watching the proceedings. Obviously, they both wanted to get not like a perspective, but the thing in its entirety, so they could understand and how they wanted to comment on it. What did Lamont have to say?
Well, you should read Danny Emmerman's piece on KMBR. He actually talked to Lamont here. I saw Lamont standing behind the press conference, and I didn't know if I wanted to go seek out Lamont, the one black guy on the Giants roster to get quote thoughts about this, because are you asking for perspective that they only have because they're black, and like it's kind of a tough situation to deal with as a reporter.
Sure.
Obviously, Danny did seek him out, and Lamont had thoughts on it. And he said that that was an obvious. I mean, I think we all know that was obviously had racial overtones and undertones, and Lamont echoed that, and he said that he wasn't buying it either.
Yeah.
And I would have to agree with him, but yeah, it was kind of an awkward situation as a reporter, because you don't want to single somebody out and to get their perspective on this racial issue just because they're black. But that said, Lamont obviously took an interest in this. Like he was standing behind the press conference. He walked away with Antoine from the press conference, and Danny, I guess, made the smart move in going and seeking out Lamont after that. But it was completely orchestrated and just not convincing in any way whatsoever.
Let's get into the Giants right now as far as the injuries. Steven Duggar, I was saying to Ryan, Steven Duggar, man, to have the oblique pull and then to go into 60-day DL, and he's far and away the best defensive center fielder they have. It's an enormous outfield at Oracle Park. What's your best guess? Who's on the short list of the replacement list for center field? And we saw Luis Gonzalez is up, but I don't think of him as a center fielder necessarily. What do you think the Giants are going to do in center?
Yeah, well, it's really too bad for Steven Duggar, who's seemingly at every turn when he gets these everyday playing opportunities, he gets injured, whether it's with the shoulder last year or the oblique here. He was getting a really strong stretch of playing time. He had started the past 7 games with the stretch of the string of right-handers that they've been facing, and he was really cementing himself as just about an everyday center fielder, at least when you're facing that many right-handed pitchers. But yeah, I thought it was a little bit curious that, knowing that this is an oblique strain, this is something that's going to be at least 4 to 6 weeks, and now with him being on the 60-day DL at least 60 days, I mean, that gives a real opportunity for them to bring somebody up and get a look. And who's the first name that comes to mind? It's Elliot Ramos. But for whatever reason, they don't seem to want to throw him out there against a lot of right-handed pitchers right now. Gabe says that this is because they want to create, these situations for him to succeed when he comes up to the major league level, which in their eyes means having him face just about exclusively left-handers, as he did in that really brief look that they brought him up, and was probably one of the more exciting players on the field during those couple games that he came up. But I think Luis Gonzalez is a guy who could possibly stick around. He's a guy who really did impress this spring, and they say they're comfortable with him in center. He's played a lot of center in the past. He's a guy who has been recovering from shoulder surgery. The Giants kind of made this opportunistic claim on him, as they've kind of done on some guys in the past. You think like a Sam Delaplane or a John Brebbia, guys who they go out and make these claims or signings when they have medical issues, and the Giants are willing to invest in them and their rehab and recovery to then profit and benefit off of the results once they're healthy. And Luis Gonzalez is looking like another one of those guys. He had surgery to repair labrum in his shoulder, which he injured diving for a ball, not unlike Steven Duggar has in the past. But he's a guy who had some of the best at-bats of anybody in the spring. He's kept that success going at AAA so far this year. He had 3 home runs in 11 games. And he came up. I think he struck out in his one pinch hit at bat tonight. But he's a guy, I mean, he's only 26. He used to be one of the White Sox top prospects, not top 100 guy by any means, but a guy who has real potential and could stick around in the major leagues. But yeah, I think he's gonna see a lot of those at bats in terms of being a left-handed bat who can slot into Duggar's role against right-handers. But yeah, I mean, you saw Mauricio Dubon in center today. That's probably going to be a pretty regular sight. And you're also hopeful about Lamont Wade coming back on the pretty near horizon now, going out on a rehab assignment starting tomorrow.
Rye, feel free if you want to jump in. You got a question for Evan?
Yeah, I guess actually I'd like for him to elaborate a little bit on the Elliot Ramos. It seems like they're very concerned with, I think we all understand that baseball is such a mental game, and you want to put your guys in positions to succeed, and you want them to have confidence, when they're up here. But yeah, I mean, I guess what's the latest on what you've heard about Ramos? It seems like he provided a little bit of a spark when he came in, and I feel like there's a spot for him, at least some of these days.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to think, like, when are you going to bring him up for an everyday playing role if it's not now?
Yeah.
I mean, he is still 22 years old. He's still young for his age, even at the AAA level. He still hasn't gotten a full season of at-bats at AAA. So, I mean, there's stuff in his game that he still needs to work on, chasing high fastballs, working the zone, play discipline, all that. He obviously has the physical tools to succeed, and everybody has seen that. I mean, they love the energy that not just he brought on the field, but in the dugout too. He kind of, like, when you bring a guy up like that who's so excited for his major league debut, who's so hyped up as a prospect, and then actually goes on to have some success too, that can really fuel a team and energize a team. But I actually haven't kept up with how he has been doing at the AAA level since he got sent back down. But I mean, he's a guy who we expected to, I mean, this is the situation that we expected him to be the first guy up for when spring training ended. This is kind of, they said they just wanted to get him a few more reps at AAA, and by all means, he's gotten a few more reps at AAA. And I mean, they called him up for a cup of coffee. But yeah, I mean, if you think he's going to be an everyday player, which everybody in the organization does at this point, I mean, you have to give him the ability to be an everyday player at the major league level at some point.
I mean, I agree. I think that, but who knows? I mean, they know their players better than we do. And maybe they see refinement that's needed, and they want to slow play him a little bit, and not, like, take a look at Joey Bart. Joey Bart has looked good. He's really hit the ball really hard a number of times, and he's had some phenomenal at bats where he shows that he knows the strike zone. But look down right now, and here we are on the 22nd of April, and he's hitting 188. And striking out probably too much. So, it's a very difficult game. And for young hitters to break through at the major league level, I mean, you're facing 3 and 4 different nasty pitchers every single night. And it's just everybody's, the advanced scouting reports on you and how to get you out are circulating. Those guys make big money to produce those reports because they're damn good at it. And it's just like, you can be advanced, you could be improved, and it's still incredibly difficult to stay, to produce at the major league level. Give me your thoughts on Joey Bart. Are there any concerns internally about Bart as his average starts to plummet a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, as we talk about young players, I think, the kind of holds up that the young guys are going to see more breaking balls. Everybody can hit a fastball, right? And that's held up with Bart. Bart's seeing the second fewest fastballs of anybody on the team. The only person who's seeing fewer of them is Tyro Estrada, who's another young player, promising player who hasn't really shown he can hit a breaking ball. Bart, I think you're seeing promising signs even while his average does kind of continue to plummet. The last couple games being the game that he took the pitch off his hand, and then tonight he's been dealing with a blood blister on his left hand that he says is making it kind of hard for him to swing the bat. It's pretty nasty. I mean, it's like right here on his left hand, which is getting pounded with every pitch in his catcher's glove, and then he says it's even more painful when he's swinging the bat. It's not something that they're concerned about, or they're going to put him on the DL or anything like that. But I think it does explain some of the weaker cuts that you've seen from him in the last couple games. But in a bigger picture, you're seeing good at bats from Joey Bart, which is something that you weren't seeing in 2020. And they really like the plate discipline and the pitch selection, the improvements that he's made there. There have been some calls, including one the other night in New York, where that ball is like very clearly off the plate, and he's getting rung up anyway. And he drew another walk tonight, and he's got, I think it's 6 now on the season, which would be double his total that he had all in 2020 and that brief spot in brief look in 2021 too.
One of the people are asking about the injuries: Longoria, Wade, now Duggar, LaStella. Let's run through a few of them. Where are the Giants with these injuries? Duggar, we found out today, 60-day DL, so he's going to miss a couple months. But where's Longoria? Where's Wade? When do you think we'll see those guys? Tommy LaStella, is he going to be able to play any significant number of games this year with a Achilles that looks like it's right on the edge of potentially rupturing? Update us on some of the injuries if you could, right? Ev.
The LaStella situation is interesting. Like a couple of weeks ago, we were talking to Gabe, and he said that LaStella was the closest guy to coming back out of Longoria, Wade, and him. And since then, we've gotten a few more injury updates, and it's kind of remained status quo, where they say LaStella is continuing baseball work. He's taking ground balls, he's running, he's throwing, he's hitting. But there hasn't been much progression, whereas everybody else seems to be moving forward in their rehab. Like I said, Lamont Wade is going out on a rehab assignment. Seems like he's going to be the one who's closest to returning. You got positive news on Evan Longoria today. He's in Arizona while they're on their road trip. He has a house down there in Scottsdale. Obviously, the Giants have a beautiful facility out in Scottsdale where they keep their staff too. So that would be why he's in Arizona right now. Same with Matthew Boyd, who's also doing rehab down in Arizona, even though he's been with the team when they're at home. But on Longoria front, he's said that he's kind of right after surgery. He was hopeful that he'd be back kind of that first week of May, and he does seem to be trending that way. He started throwing a baseball for the first time from, I think it's 60 feet today, which is positive because that's kind of where he had felt the most pain in this finger injury. He said that he was able to swing the bat because he could keep it's his index finger. And as long as they're together, like when you're gripping a bat, it's not so bad. It wasn't so bad, but when you have to separate them when you're throwing the baseball, that's where he started to feel a lot of pain, and that ended up being what caused him to go get surgery in the first place, is that he just couldn't throw the baseball. And so when we left San Francisco, he had been doing infield work, but he had his right hand bandaged, and he was very careful not to use it in any way. He was doing just glove hand work on ground balls. So the fact that he's progressing and throwing now, I think is a pretty positive sign, and I would have to imagine he's still on track for right around that first week of May, which is coming up now, so 2 weeks away.
LaStella, I mean, any word on LaStella's situation as far as it seems like he's got a lot of pain there. It's stiff. It seems like it's one of those things that will he be able to kind of nurse that throughout the year? I mean, are they concerned about that? What are you hearing about him?
Yeah, we haven't seen him in a while now because we've been on the road, and actually haven't asked about LaStella. But I mean, it was interesting that he got into those spring training games at the end of spring. He looked like he was maybe even trending toward playing on opening day, and then it's just been all downhill since then. It seems like playing the field and doing some of the base running really did aggravate the Achilles. And just so we're clear, like it wasn't a full Achilles repair. It was surgery on the sheath that covers the tendon that had become inflamed, and they just wanted to take that out of there and repair that. So it's not quite as intrusive as a normal Achilles recovery that can go up to a full year. But clearly, it's not been progressing as it seemed like it was, at least to start, because again, like all indications were he came into spring training and he was ahead of schedule, maybe trending toward opening day, and now we're 3 weeks into the season and he's not making any progress, at least according to what we're hearing from the Giants.
Couple more minutes with Evan Webeck as we talk a little Giants baseball after the Giants beat the Nationals. Game 1 in DC goes to the Giants. Big second inning, and then they just kind of blew it wide open there. There's so many different angles on these games. I'll tell you one guy that's kind of caught my eye this week, Evan, is Junior Marte. And Marte's got, from what I can tell, he's got 2, put away pitches. I mean, he's got a real tight breaking ball that, is no picnic. And then he's got a hard fastball. I would say mid-90s fastball. He's real loose armed. He looked, I saw him at AAA last year, but he looks even a little bit more refined this year. What are you hearing about Junior Marte? You think he's here for the duration? He seems like another, it's amazing how many live arm guys they have in that bullpen that can pitch in a myriad of roles. And it's a unique pen because there's not like a defined closer, but there's so many good quality arms on both left side, right side, that, Gabe's got a ton of options every night, and you don't really feel like when you're watching the Giants which reliever's coming up next. And I think that's probably an advantage. But what are you hearing about Marte, about how they feel about how he's looked so far?
Yeah, I mean, he's the dude with the live arm, like you said, and they've got a lot of them. I think the one thing with Marte is he's a dude with options too, which means he might not be a regular member of the pen. We've already seen him kind of going up and down, but he got in more work. It's not been in high leverage situations, but they're getting a good look at him, and you have to like what you've seen. I mean, the dude averages 97 on his fastball. He's got a pretty nasty breaking ball to accompany it with, and as a reliever, you only need those 2+ pitches, and you can be a real deal. I mean, that's pretty much what you see from Camilo Duvall as 2+ pitches when he can control them. Jake McGee has, really just the fastball. So I mean, when you're coming out of the bullpen, if you can throw heat and you can match that with a nasty breaking pitch, whatever it is, dealer's choice. Those are the arms that you're targeting for those back ends kind of situations. And you're seeing them go to him over a guy like Tyler Beatty out of the bullpen. Is clearly moving up the ranks in the bullpen in terms of comfortability. But yeah, I think he's probably one of their guys that's going to be going kind of up and down maybe throughout the season. Obviously, there is the new limit on options used started, and that goes into effect at the start of May, which means he can only go up and down 5 times. But as a guy who can do that and has that option available, I would expect to maybe run him out there for 2-3 outings in a row when you really need him, and then send him back down to AAA where he can rest, maybe get in some work, and then call him right back up and burn through him again.
Right. Do you get another one there for Evan? I got one more before we say goodbye as well.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Evan. So I've got another injury adjacent one. So with Rodon, he's been incredible, obviously, just, better than we could have expected. But have you heard anything in terms of, sort of a plan just to make sure that his arm doesn't get too taxed? Just with his injury history, I think a lot of people said he was kind of the high risk, high reward, pitcher out there on the market just because of the injuries. He's only been going 5-6 innings. Has that been kind of a point of emphasis to, kind of ease him in as the season goes along, just so we have him there for the stretch run?
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's contained just to Rodon. I think that it's pretty much up and down the rotation that they're going to be having this philosophy of, they're in it for the long run. They're in it for 162, and they want these guys to be around for the stretch run. And again, as you look at this rotation, it's every single person in it has injury history, just like Rodon does. Rodon, obviously, more recent. But they were all pretty optimistic in the spring when we were talking about this, that, he has this baseline of 160 innings last year. He kind of broke down at the end last year, but he was coming off 3 seasons where he hadn't thrown, I don't think, more than 100 innings in any of them. That said, we were just talking to Gabe today, and because, DeSclafani situation, the Cobb situation, and he says, well, we're not counting on any of our guys to make 30 starts this year, and that's why they brought in, Matthew Boyd, Jacob Junis, depth guys like that. But yeah, in terms of the shorter outings for Rodon, I do think that that's kind of been a product of his just not being particularly efficient.
Sure.
You saw him go 7 in that second outing, and it was kind of like a complete 180 from the kind of outings that he had in his other 2 outings, where he was striking out just about everybody, but not in a particularly efficient manner. His last outing, man, was interesting though. Like, he threw 80% fastballs. A dude,
saw that.
Nobody can throw like. That's what major league hitters are waiting for, right? Like, this is a fastball league, and it just speaks to the quality of that pitch, that you can throw it 4 and 5 pitches. The batters know it's coming, and they're still swinging and missing 17 times throughout that game. I mean, it's fun to watch, and I mean, maybe it speaks to something like a good sign of things to come. That the fact that Rodon is adding velocity as he pitches into these games, where he starts out, he actually threw something like 93, 94 in the first inning of his last outing, and it was getting it back up to 97 by his last inning. So I think that might be something that you watch as the season goes on. He's a guy who pitches off adrenaline. He gets pumped up on the mound. He likes those big situations. So I think when he's pitching in September, I think he's going to be able to get it up for them. At least that's the impression that I get from him.
Well, and that's interesting too, because they say the fastball takes less out of the arm, and maybe this is a way of preserving Rodon, is to have him feature higher percentage fastballs. That might be something that they're doing intentionally. He definitely's got the giddy up, let's say, on that pitch to be effective. Evan, let me ask you one last one before we let you go. And we do appreciate you. You did your job all day. You're there. We're keeping you overtime, so we'll let you go after this. But the Giants made a trade yesterday, and they DFA'd Jalen Davis, and they picked up a pitcher from the Cubs named Abbott. And I looked at him, and looks like 93, 94. He's got a really nasty slider. And he's got kind of an across your, it's not a sidearm. It's not a Tyler Rogers submarine, but it's definitely not it's less than a 3/4. It's a little bit of a side slinging kind of across your body kind of a motion. It's an interesting motion. I saw the Giants comment was that, they felt like they could tinker with some things with him to help him out. They sent him to AAA, but as we know, with many of these Farhan transactions, they don't pick up Luke Williams to sit. They want to use him, and I'm sure they see something in Abbott that they want to utilize. What are you hearing from just being around the club about that move? Do you have any idea what they're trying to tinker with? Do they view him as a reliever or potentially a spot starter? I heard that he could maybe man either role. What are you hearing about Abbott?
Yeah, as far as I know, and from what I'm hearing, they do view him as a starter and want to develop him as a starter. I mean, he's a guy who has a 4-pitch repertoire. It's not like none of his pitches are necessarily plus. The slider, has gotten good reviews in the past, but it's kind of an unconventional pitch. Maybe that's the answer. This is often what the Giants do, is they find the one pitch that a guy excels at, and they tell him to throw it more. It's also my understanding that he's not going directly to Sacramento, that he's going to actually make a pit stop in Scottsdale and go to their new facility where they have that pitching lab. He needs to build up arm strength, but also the investment that they've made into that minor league facility in Scottsdale, where Carlos Martinez is right now too. Where they're tinkering on mechanical stuff with Martinez. And I would imagine that they're going to do something similar with a guy like Corey Abbott, who clearly, like you said, they see something in him that was worth going and getting. They didn't wait to make the waiver claim. They jumped the line, and they gave the Cubs cash for him. They didn't part with a player like they did for Williams, but he's the guy that they see as a piece, and from what I'm hearing, a guy that they want to develop as a starter, and could provide more depth for the rotation this year. I mean, he's on the 40-man roster. He's got options. I would fully expect to see him at some point in a Giants uniform this year, maybe making a spot start, maybe being long relief. But if everything in his development goes as planned, he seems like a guy who would be on the major league team this year in some capacity.
We're going to let you get on with your Friday night. It's 11:30 in the East, and we appreciate you doing the yeoman's work coming on with us. I really do appreciate it. I really enjoy your coverage of the team, man. I really think you're doing a phenomenal job. And tease ahead. If I pick up my San Jose Merc in the morning, what am I going to read about tomorrow? And don't you pop on with Marte on Saturdays or Sundays? What kinds of things? What other spots outside of the Mercury News are we going to see Evan Webeck this weekend?
Oh, that's a good question. I was on with Marte last weekend. I haven't gotten the invite back, so I must have blown my chance.
You're persona non grata. He's now Evan Webeck banned from the Marte Lurie show. So, no, but talk to us a little bit about what we may be reading if we pick up the Merc tomorrow in your coverage of the first game of this national series.
Yeah, sure. It paid off. I talked to Austin Slater before the game and Gabe Kapler before the game, and with these early deadlines that we have with the Merc these days, I wouldn't have been able to get that story in unless I had talked to them before the game. But yeah, Austin Slater's been a guy who has not really. I mean, he only plays against left-handers. That's his role. It's a platoon role, and the Giants haven't faced left-handers, and he's been off to a very slow start to the season. So I'm like, well, I mean, it's pretty tough to just go in cold in the middle innings, pinch hitting or as defensive replacement. Is it tough for you? And Gabe Kapler says nobody has any sympathy for Austin Slater, and he's not asking for any. And Slater echoed those comments, but he in this role, he's basically planning out his week, his month against when he's going to face another left-hander. So he saw Patrick Corbin on the schedule, like he said, a couple weeks in advance, and he's been kind of waiting for today all along. You saw that pay off with his home run there in the third inning. So yeah, focusing on Austin Slater. I'm also hoping to roll out a mailbag. So if you have any questions for me to answer, and please run the gamut. It doesn't have to be baseball related. Shampoo. It actually, I have no. On the road, I have no set shampoo. I tell you that. The hotels provide the shampoo, so there's no.
Don't use that
secret
hotel shampoo. It's very harsh. Stupid dumbass child says Dave Fleming loves him. Does Dave Fleming love you, Evan?
Oh, I hope so.
Or no, maybe. Oh, actually, you know what?
This is baby face.
No. This is a conversation on the chat. People are talking about the Giants trying to trade for Cedric Mullins. I think he's trying to say Dave Fleming likes Cedric Mullins. But if the Giants do anything of that significance, I gotta think this is not typically when it's done, right? It's not done in April. It's not done in early May. I would say if you're a Giants fan expecting any kind of move of significance, those kinds of moves happen usually after June 1st, and maybe more times than not after July 1st. I would say if you may see Farhan do something of significance this summer, maybe a few things of significance because they do have prospects. They do have financial wiggle room with the payroll. But I think it will be in July. That would be my guess. What do you think, Evan? Has there been any talk about, how this season may play out as far as additions? Because it seems like Farhan always kind of looks to improve. He wants flexibility on his roster early in the year. He wants to take some shots with some younger players, but have that flexibility. Mm-hmm. And then it seems like in July, he kind of maps out what he's got 40-man roster-wise, and sometimes that's when he makes a more substantive kind of addition.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you saw last season, right? I mean, with Chris Bryant at the trade deadline. And they left themselves the financial flexibility to do that by not doing anything this offseason. So I would be very surprised if the Giants keep winning like they have and they're in the division race if they don't make a significant move at the trade deadline. And hey, if there's still injury concerns in the rotation, if Desclafani doesn't get his ankle inflammation under control, the Cobb thing with the groin is a pretty fluke situation. But I mean, like we were talking about, these were all guys who have injury history. So I mean, if anything flares up there are moves to be made. I mean, hey, Cedric Mullins, he's on the Orioles. They're not going to contend. The Giants are going to contend. So maybe that is a move that could happen. Not saying anything, but the reason why teams wait till the trade deadline is because teams generally don't want to say that they're not contenders. And I think we're all pretty aware that the Orioles are not contending for anything this year. So who knows?
The other name that I thought was kind of interesting, somebody's I think I saw it on Bleacher Report, which, they just kind of throw a bunch of stuff out there, but Josh Bell, with the Nationals this weekend, switch hitter. would give this team a real, another DH bat and another guy who could, hit against righties or lefties. He's another interesting name for the middle of the summer. Evan, we enjoy your work, man. Thanks for doing the late night duty with us, and we'll let you get on to the rest of your night in DC. You guys got probably a quick turnaround. Safe travels out on the road, and thanks for stopping by the Krueg show tonight.
Yeah, get some sleep.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Evan. Take care, man. Evan Webeck from the San Jose Mercury News, and good dude, man. I mean, think about it, right? I mean, you get to the park. These guys work hard. They get to the park. They spend a lot of time there. Then they get the game. The game's like 3 hours long. Then you start writing your story. And then there's some, jerk like me who's saying, hey, why don't you pop on my YouTube show and chat it up? And then, look at it. It's 8:35 Pacific time right now. It's 11:35 Eastern. He's still got to pack up his stuff and somehow navigate the streets of DC back to the old hotel. So we appreciate Evan Webeck for doing that, because he is a cool guy for sure. All right, you want to take some calls?
Yeah,
want to do that?
Let's
so do we have the we put the just click the link in the chat to join the conversation. Simple as that. Is that the deal?
All right, I think so.
There you go. If you want to be part of the video cast, just click that link in the chat, and away we go. Before we do that, why don't we get into our sponsors and thank them, because we have some phenomenal sponsors, and they do great things for us, and we want to make sure that we thank them. But before we do that, let's take this little banner down and then tell you about Telmetrics, telmetrics.co. Casey Bateman and the people at Telmetrics, they're a great sponsor of the Krueg Show. And if you're an orthopedic surgeon, an occupational therapist, a chiropractor, or a physical therapist, Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your patients or in your practice, and will greatly benefit your patients. Telmetrics uses computer vision and artificial intelligence and provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in clinical and telehealth environments. Using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So for all your sports injury concerns, and if you're a physical rehabilitation specialist, be sure you go to telmetrics.co. That's TELMETRIX, Telmetrics.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and the people at Telmetrics for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg Show. And our other sponsor is Dan Coach Emilio. Give him a call today. He's a retirement planning specialist. He's at 925-628-9966. And you can also check out his website, securemoney.com. And Danny's a good friend and a sponsor of the show. And, really, with all that's going on in the world, you just want to make sure your money is secure. And Dan's got 25 years of experience, born and raised right here in the Bay Area. Big Giants fan, big Niner fan, big Warrior fan. He can help you get an immediate 10% premium on your 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. Give him a call today. He'll talk over your situation and develop a strategy. 925-628-9966. Make sure you are putting your money where it is secure. Once again, Dan Coach Emilio, retirement planning specialist at securemoney.com, 925-628-9966. And thanks to Danny and all the good people at Secure Money for being a sponsor of the Krueg Show.
Hey Larry, real quick, I felt bad for him, because I want him to get home, get some sleep. But I don't know if you saw, but Dan did pop in the chat, and I was gonna see if we could, work in some sort of sponsored question for Evan. But
okay. So Danny, should we call Evan back? No, probably not.
Maybe Jay Hutch can answer.
Danny wants to know. He says, Evan, what's the plan for the starting rotation with DeSclafani and Cobb on the injured list? Do they plan to give Beatty a start, or call up Jelly, or use Long or Junis? Danny, I think it's pretty clear. They're going to give Beatty a start. They're going to use Long like they did tonight. They're going to use Junis as well. I think Jelly will be the last of those guys to get the call. That would be my guess. All right, we go to the video call for Jay Hutch, who's a big fan of the show. What's up, Jay Hutch? How's your Friday night going?
Oh, it's been a day, let me tell you.
Joining us from Nashville, right?
Murfreesboro, but the Nashville
Murfreesboro,
area.
Tennessee.
Yeah.
I've always told Rye we're big in Murfreesboro. You know, I mean, we're popping in Murfreesboro.
Oh, I'm
So
sure.
what's on your mind tonight, Jay Hutch? Giants, Niners, Warriors. What's your flavor tonight?
Oh, definitely Giants to start with. I think Yaz is heating up. I think it's looking great.
Yes.
If he just,
I was a little worried after that first week. I think Ryan and we were talking about that.
Yeah.
Man, what's Yaz going to give the Giants? And then all of a sudden, he seemed like he's locked in and he's hitting the long ball. He's putting a charge into the baseball. It's great to see because they need somebody to emerge as the everyday outfielder, especially with Duggar kind of not being that guy,
right.
So
Loving Slater too. I think. I mean, Slater. I've always liked Slater just because he hits the ball hard. Like even if it turns into an out, or he just hits the ball hard. I mean, you see some of his home runs. Doesn't he have like the longest home run of a Giant like the past 5 years? Didn't he break his record twice, like 400?
I don't know about the
something
distance on that. He does hit the ball hard.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting listening to Evan Webeck talk about how, he knows his role is to hit lefties. So he's going to be in there against lefties.
Right.
So he's sitting there thinking about Patrick Corbin for days and watching
he
Patrick
puts one
Corbin for
out.
days.
Oof, awesome.
Yeah, but it makes you wonder if you study that much, does that make you tight? Do you sit there and go, oh, this is my opportunity. I'm not going to face another lefty for 6 more days or 4 more days. This is my opportunity. A part of being
I think he could be. I think he could be an everyday player, or at least I think they can give him a shot. If they're okay, how about this? If they're not planning on calling up Ramos, then give Slater the everyday job, or at least most days. I feel like.
I like that idea. Rye, what do you think? What do you think? Slater every day?
I mean, I like Slater. I mean, look, it's not like we don't have this, plethora of options. So, I mean, yeah, sure. Put Slater in the lineup. I will also just clean up from earlier. I popped on Baseball Reference, so it looks like Ramos. It's been 6 games, but he. It's not necessarily crushing the ball right now. He's hitting 208 in those 6 games. He has 5 hits, no extra base hits, 6 strikeouts, 6 for 30 or 6 for 24 overall. So,
well, what do you think? What happens when you finally get called up to the big leagues? You hit 2 hits, and then they sit you for 2 days, and then you get set back down. With his head.
It was a tough thing for him for sure.
Yeah.
I will say this though, these guys know their players better than we know their players, and they know what it's going to take to succeed. Look at all of us last year begging and screaming for Joey Bart, and Joey Bart came up and he struggled. So, it's just one of those things where they know what the stages of development are, and they,
And Farhan, we trust, man.
Yeah, I mean, say it again for the camera.
In Farhan, we trust. 107 wins.
There you go. Rye, did you like that? We isolated Jay Hutch there for the in Farhan we trust.
Oh, I really should have got that as a drop, right?
What we could do too is just keep moving everybody around the boxes like this, and just keep playing with this back and forth until we get really bored. But no, but I mean, I at this point you have to say in Farhan we trust. I mean, come on.
How can you not?
Look what he's been able to accomplish in a short amount of time.
How many years has it been? 4?
That's good. That's a good question. I would say it's 3, isn't it?
Is this his 3rd or is this his 4th?
I thought it was 22, 21, and 20. I wasn't the first year of the pandemic for Farhan?
No, his first year was the last year of Bochy.
That's right. So this it's 3 for Cap. It's 4 for Farhan. You're right. You're right.
Yeah,
and they haven't won anything.
I was able to go to that year was opening day, and then I went to Bochy's last game,
which was incredible. And Boch was Boch was obviously a Hall of Fame manager, but And Kapler had some, some early bumps in the road. The one that I always think of is when he pulled Gaussman from the game at Dodger Stadium. I think he
Was
had
that
gone
like the
8
first
shutout.
week?
It was. I think it was year 1 of Kapler.
Yeah,
But
it was
I think
like the
Kapler's
first
better.
week.
Kapler's been better since then. I mean, I think now he's not as wed to the analytics. I think now he kind of manages the game in front of him more.
Uses
He'll
his
still have
eyes.
what's that?
Uses his eyes.
He does. I think he still is going to use the data, but I think he's a little bit less wed to the data, and a little bit more open-minded about, what's going on in front of him. I just feel like his feel seems more natural now than it was that first year.
I think the best thing about it is that the players believe in him. They believe in him. They believe in his coaching methods. They believe in the staff. I mean, just look at the Brandons. I mean, especially Crawford. I mean, because Brandon Belt, he's always been producing. People can say whatever they want about him, but Brandon Belt's always produced. Maybe it's not what we want him to produce just because of all the injuries, but he hit 29 last year. He probably could have hit 35 if he actually played 162 games. He could hit 40. Obviously, he's not going to play all 162. But just look at Brandon Crawford. He had an MVP last year.
I think that's a great point.
Season last year.
I think, it's funny, Rod. I think Jay Hutch is making a great point here. The veteran hitters bought into the Giant coaching staff last year, and we weren't sure if it was going to happen. And Ryan, that's exactly what happened. They bought into that coaching staff. And I asked Crawford about it late in the year, and he's like, hey, their information's incredible.
Clearly.
And so we believe in it. And he's like, the information we've gotten has always been helpful, but the information that we've gotten this year, talking about last year, he's like, is very specific and is the best information we've ever gotten. That's what he said. And I wasn't trying to push him for it. That was an unsolicited comment from Brandon Crawford. So to me, that was a huge eye opener. And, it speaks volumes about, Farhan and his ability to not just find coaches who have rings, but coaches that are truly great teachers and are willing to take the analytics produced by the analytics department and the front office, and they're willing to consistently bring it to the field. And it seems like that's the way you win in baseball today.
I have a question.
Go ahead. I mean, that's starting from the tip of the spear. You get the Brandons, you get Buster talking about how helpful it is, and that just sets the tone for everyone else. They're not too. I don't think anybody else is going to feel like they're too cool to be utilizing this stuff. And honestly, I'd like to learn a little bit more about that their new state of the art spring training facility, because it sounds like one of those crazy places where it's just where the NBA or NFL guys go before the draft, where they figure out everything down from every type of mechanics, from just walking and all these different things that can improve. And also I will say, so I was pulling up. Sorry if I had a glazed look on my face. I was pulling up Slater's right-handed, left-handed splits from last year.
What'd you say?
So he hit 280.
It's not good against righties.
No, 284 with 10 home runs, and it's actually pretty even in terms of ABs. 284 with 10 home runs versus lefties, and versus righties 171, 2 home runs.
Yeah, I talked about this last week. I mean, the Giants have Slater's got terrible numbers against righties, great numbers against lefties. Yaz has terrible numbers against lefties, great numbers against righties, and it kind of goes down the line. I mean, it's for the most part. They've got a bunch of platoon guys. That's why if there's one thing that I'd love to see the Giants do is get that one outfielder.
An actual left fielder, you mean?
Well, it doesn't have to be a left fielder. It could be a center fielder. It could be a right fielder. Just somebody who's an everyday guy, somebody who can play the outfield every single day, so that you don't have to juggle your entire outfield. Cedric Mullins has come up a lot in the comment section tonight, and I know he's a terrific young player. Why would Baltimore move him? But I mean, that's the kind of player that we're talking about. Somebody like that who could play every day. Go ahead, Jay Hutch.
444. I think he wants. What does he want? Judge and center.
Aaron Judge. He's saying, yeah. Well, Aaron Judge would sell tickets for sure.
Yeah.
Jay Hutch, you got another comment on your way out? We'll clear the line. Try to take a couple more calls.
So you know how you always say the NFL is a copycat league. That's like
totally.
You always talk
sports
about
really is, but NFL for sure.
So, what do you think the rest of the league is going to do in terms of the Giants having as many coaching staff as they do? I mean, if I'm MLB and the rest of the teams and you see 107 wins, Farhan, with what they're doing, I'm surprised more teams haven't done that. I'm sure the good teams and, the major market teams are definitely going to, but I'm just surprised more teams haven't done it yet.
Well, it's not just the coaching staff. It's how many people are
Right.
going towards helping us win tonight.
Mhm.
So the number of coaches, that's important. The number of executives, the number of analytics people, how many people. I really think that the Giants, the impact of their analytics is felt in every phase of the game. But where I think you really see it, and where I, as somebody who watches every single game closely, where I see it is in the defensive position.
Oh, 100%. I mean, just look at Crawford. Just look at Crawford, for example.
Yeah.
He's getting older. How old is he? 35?
33, 34 in that range.
Okay,
yeah.
33, 34. He hasn't missed one step. One step.
But he's a great defensive player. I'm talking about like guys who are challenged, like Wilmer Flores. Sure. Wilmer Flores, 2 games ago, key line drive in the 8th inning, right into his glove. Right into
Slater
his
with
glove.
the play tonight. He was in
another
the right
example.
Position to be able to make a dive.
Darren Ruff, another example. It's not just defense and pitching. It's defense, pitching, and your analytics, which equates to positioning. And if you have a huge staff of people and you can go through, instead of just looking at the spray charts, I get the feeling that the Giants go through and look at every single hit, every single ball on that spray chart, and take out the anomalies and take out the exceptions to the rule and perfect those spray charts that much more, so they can then hand Wilmer Flores a spray chart that's even better than that same spray chart that's being handed out by the Florida Marlins or the Chicago Cubs. Why? Because they went through it with this massive amount of manpower and some huge labor-intensive project, and they took out all the anomalies and they took out all the exceptions to the rule and perfected the spray chart. And now they've got a better defensive positioning chart than what their opponent has. And it's labor intensive. It takes a bunch of man hours, but they'll invest those hours for incremental improvement in every phase of the game. And so it kind of does make you wonder, is this the copycat that we'll see in the years ahead? Will teams start devoting, instead of 5 coaches and an analytics guy and an advanced scout, maybe it's 5 coaches, maybe it's 12 coaches, and maybe it's 15 analytics guys, and maybe it's, maybe you're sitting there and you're throwing so many man hours towards trying to win the baseball game tonight that it's actually having a significant impact on your ability to do exactly that. I don't think it's any accident, guys, that the teams that are right on the cutting edge of analytics, the Dodgers, the Giants, the Tampa Bay Rays, are some of the teams having the most success in the game today. I think that is cause and effect.
Baseball's a numbers game. The more numbers, the more information you have, the better you're going to be. And
No
also,
question.
to think
Jay
about...
Hutch, we got to jump. You got one last thing? Go for it.
One last thing. Defensive positioning, as you're saying, the shift is going away next year. It's going to be gone. How far ahead of the Giants are ahead of the game right now? Just think about next year when the shift is gone. Some of the teams don't have these analytic departments. They don't know where to shift. The Giants are going to be so far ahead of the game next year with their defensive positioning. It's not even going to be funny.
Jay Hutch, have a great weekend, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening to the show.
Yeah,
good stuff. And Jay Hutch, I like the video calls, man. The video calls are very cool. Very cool. You ready to get out of here? 90 minutes. We've gone pretty much on a Friday night after Giants Nats, and we're back tomorrow. I think Ned Coletti's going to join us for the post game, and then Warriors Nuggets game 4, I believe, coming up on Sunday. And I think Cyrus Satsis will join us for a little post game on Warriors Nuggets on Sunday. So thanks to everybody. I'm loving this, man. Absolutely loving the YouTube challenge and being in this space and doing all this stuff. And thanks to everybody who participated on the show. Thanks to Rye. Thanks to Len. Thanks to our sponsors. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Be extra sure to hit that notification bell so you can be alerted when there is an upcoming Krueg show in your midst. But I love you guys. I love everybody who's associated with this thing. I'm having a ton of fun. And thanks for supporting my channel. And if you say, how do I support your channel? I want to support you. How do I do it? Just like and subscribe and tell a friend. And if you can, shop our sponsors. Telmetrics.co, Dan Coach Emilio, Retirement Planning Specialist. Thanks to all the people at Bay Area Sports Live. Thanks to you, Rye. Great stuff, man. Thanks everybody in the chat room today. A lot of good comments. And thanks to Evan Webeck for stopping by as well. Good 90 minutes. Giants get the win. I have a feeling good things are on the horizon for the G-men as they finish up this road trip with, a couple more, and then I think one in Milwaukee as well. But so far, so good. They struggle with the Mets, but this road trip with the Nationals, I expect the Giants to wreck shop in DC all weekend long. Where I think it's going to be a very positive trip for the G-men.
Agreed. And then we get them back at home after the A's, and hopefully we can clean up a couple more W's.
Yes, that's right. And of course, anytime you get to see the Giants and the A's, that is always a good thing as well. I always love watching Giants and the A's. Do we have our outro? Let's do it right here.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you won't get exactly what you asked for. Careful.